Hi, Najia. Great to see you. So much sunshine falling on you. You're looking good.
Thank you. After a very, very long time, we've been, talking and seeing each other. Well, I mean, through webcam it is, but yeah, it's been years. And thank you for the compliment. How have you
And
been?
yeah, I've been fine. And it's really great to know. See, I know actors who become directors and producers, but they keep making films. And you have been such a wonderful actor. And those who don't know, we have worked together in Dandanadan Goal.
Yeah.
But then now you are a successful documentary filmmaker.
Wow. Thank
And
you.
that too from Afghanistan, because there are very few women documentary filmmakers from Afghanistan. Are you the only one, or are there more you know of?
There are a couple of more women film directors in Afghanistan, but they are not doing what I'm doing. So it's a bit different genre altogether. So, yeah, but they are following a similar kind of mold that they are set to follow, but where I've come out of the box and I've gone completely all out. So, yeah.
So tell me, what are you doing? I mean, what documentaries you have made? You recently were in Afghanistan just few
Yes.
days before the Taliban took over. So tell me more about your documentaries. What are you doing?
Right, so it's called Empire of the Moon. I don't know if the viewers know anything about Ahmad Shah Masoud. He was one of the commanders, and he's also known as the Lion of Panjshir. So he was one of the Mujahideen that fought against the Soviets. And he was assassinated 2 days before 9/11 attacks that took place in 2001, yes. And then the 9/11 attacks took place, and then straight away the US entered Afghanistan, and then the West followed, and so on and so forth. So it's about Ahmad Shah Massoud's assassination to 9/11. Is it linked? Is it not? So that would all reveal in the documentary. And the 20 years that the West have been in Afghanistan, what have they really done? So it's basically all of that. And then through this documentary, I'm just putting it out there, and it's up to the viewers to make their minds up whether the West being in Afghanistan was a good thing, whether they've done good or whether they haven't. So there are so many angles that I'm covering, not unlike the mainstream media that they only show you one side of the story, but here I'm going to show you both sides of the coin. And at the end of the day, it's your choice what to, take from there or learn from it or whatever it may be. So yeah.
Okay, okay. Let me just ask you something. When I was growing up, I grew up reading a lot about the great culture of Afghanistan. In fact, in India, in Bollywood, they made a lot of movies glorifying Afghani people, and they said they are big-hearted people, great people, very open-minded, and always loving, inclusive. And I also experienced that when I was studying in Delhi. We had too many Afghan students. Whole lot of. In fact, where I used to live there, it was full of Afghan girls. Now, my experience, they were very modern, and they thought scientifically, and they thought beyond religion, and whole lot of things. But then slowly, as the world knows what happened. But since I'm a student of communication, of media, I also understand that about a country, what you see in the Western world is not mostly true, because they also paint for their own geopolitical reasons, paint certain countries in a certain way. In Hollywood movies, Africans are always poor. I mean, I've never seen a rich African, not American Africans, African I'm talking about.
Yes.
I've never seen very smart Chinese people in Hollywood movies. India is always poor, and Gulf, Middle East is Afghan, especially, is always very regressive. Now they project things like that. But since you were there,
Yes.
what is the reality? What is the truth from a documentary filmmaker's eyes, or from a woman's eyes who is an Afghani national but have lived in UK for a long time?
Yes, so you're very right that the West love to make certain countries look poor, and oh, they need our help, and just make them feel like they're the savior of the whole world. And it's not true, in my personal opinion. Now, what the rest of the world thinks is a different matter. However, when I was in Afghanistan, I was shocked when I first went. I thought to myself, I have to wear this burqa, and I have to, because I whatever I learned from the media. And then when I went, it was completely the opposite. I mean, the first time when I went, it was 2013. I didn't even put the headscarf on. I just had it around my neck, like how I would do it in Dubai. And I walked around and I was like, hang on a minute, why is the media showing this side that we have to wear this blue burqas? I mean, it's not any other burqa, but it's just always the blue burqa. Why? I mean, that's not the culture of Afghanistan. Yes, some women wear it because that's their choice. And who are we in the West to tell a culture, no, you cannot do that? If, example, Afghans came into the West, US, England, whatever it may be, and tell them, no, you know what, your women should wear the blue burqas, would they accept it? No. So why are they thinking that they have the right to go into a country like Afghanistan, India, Africa, or whatever, and impose their culture onto them? I just don't understand it. And then all of a sudden, that the Afghan women need empowerment. I mean, like, are you serious? Are you really kidding me? When Queen Soraya Tarzi fought for women's rights, and when educating the Afghan women, and she sent Afghan women for scholarship outside the country, women in the West were still sitting in their homes being housewives. She did that almost 100 years ago, and today they are fighting for their rights in the West. And it just doesn't balance. There isn't a balance anyhow. So this time when I was there, yes, it was a little bit dangerous because of whatever was happening. There were the Taliban, kind of targeting people from the media, and the police and the national security and so on and so forth, and obviously going on their motorbikes and shooting whoever especially had a camera on them. So yes, it was very, very difficult. However, I was still very, very confident walking around just with my team. I was undercover. I didn't keep bodyguards. I didn't keep, bulletproof cars and so on and so forth. But my security was like, at a distance to just keep an eye on everything. And I was fine. I was fine. The young girls, the young boys, they're just like in the West. They go out on dates, or, it's just absolutely beautiful. But I don't know why the West keeps showing the poor side of it, or the women need empowerment. Oh, make them feel like, you know, uh, I don't know. It really, really frustrates me when I see that in mainstream media. And the other thing that I wanted to discuss this with you, is so funny that you see in this mainstream media, we saw there was a suicide attack, so-called by the Taliban, but majority of the death was caused by gunfires by the US themselves, the US military. And that's something that's coming out of Afghanistan to me. They're saying that. And then they're showing on mainstream media this havoc on the airport gates. There's going on, people are clunked up, trying to get to the airport. But on the other gate, everything was in an orderly manner, which like there were coaches and buses, and they were taking their own people that they've decided that those are going to be the people to take out. They were being taken into the airport very orderly. Nobody was shooting. It wasn't a havoc, nothing. So why isn't the mainstream media covering that side? And this is what my sort of, I would say, my war is with myself, with the people, and the mainstream media. Why are you showing a story which is not true? You are, especially the British government, sending texts and what have you, and messages telling people to go to the airport. They end up going to the airport, or they're saying, "Oh, call us on this number." I'm sure this has been in the mainstream media anyway.
Yeah.
And then when people call for help, it goes into sort of a washing machine company. I mean, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, that there has been like a glitch." Are you kidding me? There's never been a glitch on anything else, but all of a sudden for this, there was a glitch. So this is kind of the reality that I'm trying to bring out, and before I get killed.
No, 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 no. But see, people, we suffer because wise people don't raise their voice. That's the biggest problem with this world, you know. We are on the same boat. I also feel that way. Okay, I speak very, very fearlessly, and I just don't care because I decided. I realized all my life that, let's take Middle East for example. See, first Britain colonized the world. They kept the world repressed and suppressed, and they exploited them, oppressed them, and then they went back and they started giving them sermons and lectures on how they should be and why they are not modern and advanced. You know, first you go and loot somebody, take all the money from him, and then you are telling this person why you don't you show enterprise and be rich. You know, so that's contradictory. Now, after that, US has also done the same thing, especially in the Middle East. You know, you should watch this wonderful documentary by Adam Curtis on BBC. You know, they deliberately kept a Gulf at war.
Yes.
They created this kind of a perception about the Gulf that everybody is killing each other, and projected it as a very violent region.
Yes.
Then the biggest crime I think America has made is they always supported, financed, funded, and empowered the evil elements of the society. You know,
Yes.
people who are generally violent, and they picked up these elements and to fight the local leaders, and in the process, and they cannot, Americans can never ever understand Eastern psyche, Eastern culture, you know, be it Afghanistan's culture or Indian culture or Vietnam's or Korea's. They can never win a war in these regions because they don't understand when a society which believes in families, okay, when they come together, how they react. This is beyond America's comprehension. So in Afghanistan also, now, the other day, I just finished a movie, and there was a debate around that we were discussing. And I said, what is justice? We never know. In the present time, we never understand what is justice. Uh, US empowering Taliban, was that justice? Taliban reacting and attacking America, was that justice? US capturing a country for 20 years, destroying its native culture and bringing American culture into it, was that justice? And now Taliban reacting in this way, now what is justice? I don't know. I seriously don't know. I mean, these are philosophical questions I'm asking. So, since you spend time over there, what is your view? And tell me honestly and frankly, why is Afghanistan in this situation today? Is it the will of the Afghani people, or they have no control over this geopolitical domination?
Well, they do. First of all, like you said, the geopolitical, the way Afghanistan is placed strategically, it's one of the best places. At first, the war on Afghanistan was the Silk Route, the trade route, and then it became the gas and oil pipelines. Then it became the war for opium and who's going to have control over opium. And then obviously other, like example, copper. And then today, the war, my personal opinion, is lithium. So if you really look at it, back in G7, the 2020, Biden announced that, at a certain, so many years, every car would be electric. What do you need for that? For batteries, lithium. And what else do you need? Copper. So where do you get the best copper and the best? I mean, obviously the reserves is the top reserves in the world is in Afghanistan, lithium and copper at the same time, in trillions, not in billions, not in millions. So yes, it will take them a little while in order to dig that out, and they need the machinery and so on and so forth. And that's why China's in the picture. So now, when the war is on that, how can they ever have any control? Because there's too much money to be made. And even if we really look at Afghanistan and the way things are, people who were in control of Afghanistan were the people that was funded by America. Example, the Mujahideen at first. Then it was the Taliban. And who funded the Taliban? The US funded the Taliban. So, okay, hang on a minute. You funded them, you raised them, and now you become enemies. Why have you become enemies? Has anybody ever thought of that? When you actually follow the money, you will understand it's always about following the money.
Yeah.
So obviously they had a riff. Okay, things didn't go as well as they thought, just like Saddam Hussein, very similar. So the Taliban's like, well, hang on a minute. You're not keeping to your promise. So why should we keep to our promise? Well, okay, fine, we're going to go against you. And that's what they did. And rightly so in so many ways. Why should the West come and take our natural resources, like how they do in Africa, like how they've done in India? They keep, like earlier on you said, looted. They keep looting and building their own sort of countries and saying, oh, democracy. But where is democracy today in the West? Because of these vaccines and whatever we're talking about, it's nobody has the right to speak up about it. Their freedom is being taken away. They haven't got the right to choose whether should they get the vaccine or shouldn't they get the. So where's the democracy? So when you don't have democracy in your own countries, why are you trying to impose this fake democracy in countries like Afghanistan? So, in my personal opinion, clean up your own house first before you try to be the saviors and cleaners of other people's houses. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, the West has given me a lot, I mean, today that I am in the UK, able to speak freely. Yes. But then again, they have taken a lot more from us. So, where's the balance here? Where's the fairness here? I don't see it. Like earlier on, you said Afghanistan's culture, India's culture, they don't understand that. We're very family orientated. We're very, I wouldn't say male dominated. This is how the mainstream media shows Afghanistan to be. But as you understand, even in India, the male is always the basic. Let's go back how human beings operate. The male has always been the breadwinner. The female is always the gatherer. So what's wrong in that? The male has never asked. If you really go into the villages of Afghanistan where the mainstream media hasn't been covering, when you go there, you will see a woman shoulder to shoulder working with her husband in the fields, example. So why are they not empowered? So what are you talking about? That then that you're going in there and empowering them, or the girls before this whole thing started? Like as I mentioned with Queen Soraya Tarzi, women and girls were going out of Afghanistan to get education. So why are you telling us this? Anyway, so they always love to paint a different picture to everybody else. So Afghanistan is such a place that when you take that sort of a male and say, well, you no longer need to provide for the female, all of a sudden, this is a psychological psyche of a man. They're like, I'm worthless. Then obviously they start thinking, okay, what do I do then? So they panic. So then obviously things start happening and people get frustrated. They don't know how to express their feelings and so on and so forth. So things start happening, and this is what's been going on in Afghanistan. But when I was there, I promise you, this is not just because I'm an Afghan. I promise you, when I was in Afghanistan, I genuinely felt safe around the men that I was working, not only, and everybody else that I was meeting. I even interviewed 3 Talibs from different tiers. I genuinely felt very, very secure. Where in the West, when I go for an interview or when I go raising funds for my project, the first thing I get asked by people who I meet for funding, what are you doing this evening? What does that mean? What are you doing this evening? So you see, at least in Afghanistan, that doesn't happen like that. Even if it does happen, it happens behind the curtains. It's not just openly. If a woman wants to, okay, that's her choice. But over in the West, women hasn't got a choice. Honestly, they don't have a choice, because this is my personal experiences. When I was doing my first documentary, similar thing happened. And then the person pulled out with all the money, and I was left just because I said no to him. So these things, that's when I'm looking at the balance, where's the balance? There isn't a balance. West is always the best. So unfortunately.
So, but then what is this thing about this entire? See, because Indian reporters did not go to report in Afghanistan, so we are getting news from CNN and BBC and whole lot of Western media. Primarily uh, American and British media. Okay, because we don't read French and German media.
Yeah.
So, what is this thing about? And I'm curious as a student. I want to understand this about Sharia law. Okay, why everybody is saying that Sharia law is barbarian, it's very inhuman, and women are cut into pieces, people are beheaded. And we have seen some videos also, which, I mean, we have seen some videos. I'm not saying that it's happening all the times, but beheading videos I have seen. Now, those are regular Afghan citizens or they are militants. It's very difficult to say because these days there is so much of fake news. People are very often, I made a film on Kashmir recently, and I saw very often Afghanistan's videos or Saudi Arabia's videos are passed off as Kashmiri videos because people don't care to check who's who. As long as they see somebody is in Muslim clothing or something like that, then they have to be from Kashmir in India, they believe. So, what is this thing about Sharia law? What I have read in media, uh, it sounds very inhuman and barbaric and very anti-women. What you tell me what you think about it?
Well, if I could be completely honest, as a Muslim woman, I promise you, I used to fear Islam because of the media again. And then obviously, I love to learn. When I started learning the rights of women in Islam, I couldn't believe it. There are so many rights for women in Islam that there isn't any in many other religions. Um, so, Sharia law, when it says, you see, one thing we've got to understand before we understand Sharia law is a country's culture. So when we understand the country's culture, it's very easy. Example: there's Sharia law in Dubai, there's Sharia law in Qatar, in the Middle East. Are they barbaric? Are they women not going to work? Well, Saudi's a little bit different because I'll come to that in a little while. And the other issue begins in Islam, especially, is that there are many sort of, how can I say, branches.
Sects, various
Yes,
sects.
exactly. So then the first things first, you've got obviously Sunni and Shia. And then from that, there is other sects as well. So then there's a Sunni Wahhabi, for instance. And that's where all the complications start. And if we just kind of declutter everything and move everything away and look at the basic of everything, then you will understand what's going on. So, Wahhabism is another sort of a sect from Islam, and that's where certain uh, problems begin. In Islam, like the way our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, treated his wives, no other human being would treat them. He wouldn't. He would say you shouldn't even raise your voice at a woman. And in Islam, example, the biggest thing is that when you even catch a woman in adultery, if I'm not wrong, there has to be the 3 to 5 witnesses that have actually literally have seen the man and woman having an intercourse, not even under their, you could see them in their bedroom. Okay, you've seen them in the bedroom, but have you actually seen them, having an intercourse? No, I haven't. So when do you get to see, unless they're completely naked, there are no sheets, there's nothing there. And literally 5 people have to come and say, 3 to 5 people, some say 3, some say 5. You actually have to have these witnesses to say exactly the same thing. So why is others that are around making this such a beautiful and basic thing into a monstrous act. It's not there in Islam. In the core of Islam, it's not there. And the problem is that a lot of people start following hadiths, and that's also another complication because there are many hadiths. The problem also it lies is that a lot of people sort of have mixed culture with religion over the years, lack of education or knowledge or whatever you may, label it as. And then they start following and mixing culture and religion, and they think what is culture? They think it's religion. So it's very easy to manipulate. And a lot of people, me myself, I didn't do that. A lot of people don't even follow farad. Farad means, the word of God, the word of Allah. And that's where all the problems begin. We are mostly taught the Quran to read blindly. Okay, like myself as a child, I finished it 9 times, but I hadn't got a clue what it was saying, So this is the problem. Culture mixed with religion, following Sunnah, but not following Farad. So all these mixes causes complications and the severity that we see, example, in Afghanistan at this time of moment, or we have been seeing. But also, I tell you another thing. Taliban are not as barbaric as they show it in the media.
You mean it?
Yes. I've seen them. I've
Tell
been
me,
with
tell me, tell me about Taliban. Yeah, tell me about Taliban.
One thing I noticed with them, they have so much respect when a woman is going to their home. Like, as I told you, I went to meet with them. They have their own ways of understanding what the world is. Okay, example I'm giving you. When they're saying do not watch TV, obviously the Western media have blown this out of proportion. They're basically saying don't watch TV, which is, sort of messes your mind up and takes you away from path of God, for instance. Example, when they say to women, do not, whatever you call it, I don't know, to cover themselves. They're not specifically saying to them to cover yourself with burqa. They're basically saying to you, you don't need to exhibit your body to show that you're empowered. And that's also my opinion too. As a woman, I don't understand why women have to be naked in order to feel empowered. So these are the struggles. And yes, there's two different parts of, a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but this is from my knowledge for what I have learned when I was there. There are two types of Taliban. They're the Afghan Taliban and then there are Pakistani Taliban. And that's where another confusion begins. And yes, Taliban have been, trained in Pakistan, and they have been supporters of that for a very, very long time. And how are they getting supported? Obviously, where is the funds coming from? From the West. And if you follow the money, you will understand everything. So this is, in Afghanistan, what they're showing is to take control over and show the Taliban to be the biggest devils on planet Earth. They look like them because they need to, their appearances, I'm sorry to say it's embarrassing, yes. At the end of the day, that's their culture. That's what they understand. So why are you coming and saying that, oh, having a beard is not right? But hang on a minute. In today's society, there is a massive trend of growing beard and shaping it, coloring it. And
I have.
you have beard. So does that make you, I don't know, a religious fanatic? No, it doesn't. I see, the Westerners growing beard. Do they make no? So why are you taking these things and showing to the people that, oh my God, this is just absolute fanatic just because you have a beard? It's not that. It's just people need to understand and turn the coin around a little bit. Start asking questions. Start digging elsewhere other than sitting in front of your TV watching CNN and BBC, for example. Look elsewhere. Understand it. God has given you a brain. Use it. Ask questions, which is the most important thing. And people are just completely, sitting there and like zombies and just following like sheep. Stop that. You're a human being. You're way above that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally understand that. In fact, I fight a lot against American imperialism in the name of globalization. Globalization is nothing but a very clever strategy of uniforming the world so
Correct.
that the consumers behave in the same uniform way, so that America can sell more products to them or take more money from them. That's my understanding of globalization. And the
Correct.
countries which resist that globalization are being attacked either financially or legally or with arms. But here's a fundamental question which is beyond religion. It's got nothing to do with religion, because in modern societies, Najia, what has happened is very cleverly the lines between, see, every society has a philosophy, you know, and then they have a religion, then they have a culture, and then they have a politics to deal with these three things so that people live peacefully. Now, the lines between these four things, philosophy, religion, culture, and politics, have blurred because of money. Everybody has formed nexus, different kind of nexus here. But there is one thing which is beyond everything, which is only about humanity. In the modern world in 2021, does anybody have a right to kill people on streets without them being proven guilty of something? Then also nobody has a right to kill anybody. Now
Correct.
that is basic common sense. It's got, even dogs react when you beat up somebody else, you know.
Yes.
So it's got nothing to do with any culture, religion, anything. It's everybody in the world doesn't like to kill, and that's why killing is the last ultimate punishment for any crime, you know.
Correct.
But I have seen lots of videos where people who claim to be Talibanis, they have been openly killing people. Now, this is something beyond comprehension for most of the younger kids, you know, and I have huge young following. So, what do you say about that? Why is it that moderate Muslims of the world are not speaking against it?
Because again, they have been shown things that are not true. Now, how I see the world, like as earlier on I mentioned, there's two sides to the coin. Now, what comes to the media, to the surface, and people are showing that, okay, Taliban are killing, example. We need to ask the question, who's broadcasting it? Which channel is it being broadcasted by? Right? It could be staged. Who knows? Call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't know. I have always been the kind of person that I ask, and unless I see it with my own eyes, I don't believe. Especially the Western media. Sorry to say, I have no respect for it whatsoever. I do not watch TV. So, anyway, so going back to your question, no human should kill another human, yes. And Islam doesn't agree with that either. But like I said, where is it coming from? Who is broadcasting it? And how is it being broadcasted? And when you like the obviously videos and things that I get from my team on the ground, it's completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. So why are people are showing things that hasn't got a reality? Number one. Number two, could they be really, example, the Taliban, or are they paid to do a job to tarnish them with, you know,
You think that is possible? That's also possible that people are implanted like actors, performers who are
yes.
performing to give bad name to Afghanistan.
It's
But
not only Afghanistan. It could be anywhere in the world. It could be in
yeah,
America.
yeah.
It can be in England. It can be anywhere. Why I
No, but
claim this?
an Indian journalist who used to work for Reuters, for American media company Reuters, he was killed by the Taliban, and Taliban, the official Taliban, took the onus of that. But let me also give you a disclaimer before that. The same photojournalist was criticized heavily in India by Indians, because when the COVID happened, the second wave of COVID came, then he was very notoriously famous for just posting pictures of people burning in crematorium. You know, Hindus,
Mhm.
they burn bodies. So by just showing those pictures, you know, and which is very sacred, not for Hindus not to show pictures of people in the crematoriums. And so he was also killed by Taliban recently,
Yes, I'm
just
aware.
few days before America left Afghanistan.
Yes,
So that is also the truth. And people, innocent people, are being killed. It's not.
100% they're being
We have
killed.
seen World Trade Center falling down. We have seen bombings. We have seen everywhere in the world. We have seen terrorism taking over. But terrorism is generally linked with Islamic countries or people from Islamic countries. I want to understand as a student, so that people, you clear, if anything you want to say, just say. I want it to be clear in everybody's mind.
I speak very clearly, fearlessly, because one day or another I'm going to die anyway. So you see, as like earlier on I said, follow the money and then you will understand. And if you really follow this whole thing of terrorism, you will definitely find that the money, the funds are coming from where and who are supporting it. It's very, very clear. It's very
Yeah.
simple. I
This
don't
I
need
agree.
to say it with words.
Terrorism was designed and devised by America. There are multiple proofs of that. Like Gaddafi,
Yes.
America spent $3 million to create an image of Gaddafi as an intellectual. They
Yes.
sent all the big intellectuals to his palace and they did interviews, and then they killed Gaddafi, because of a lot of political reasons. Anyway, sorry.
Well, the same thing happened with Ahmad Shah Masoud. Very similar. He knew 6 months before that something big was going to happen. He didn't know the specifics, but he knew. He came to Bern and he went and, in a conference and said, look, this is going to happen. Be aware. What did they do? They assassinated him because he had too much information. And he was the one who was resisting. So people who get to know the truth, people who get to know that, okay, where I'm being played, that's when people start getting, killed, assassinated, or accidents. They did that to Saddam Hussein, they did that to Gaddafi, they did that to Ahmad Shah Massoud. But before that, example, I'm giving you one of the ex-governors of Afghanistan, Mazar Sharif, which is up north. I interviewed. People like him, people don't like him, and I'm only going to speak from my point of view. Um, he was very, very loved. So was everybody, all the Mujahid was loved by the Westerners. And all of a sudden, when the Western or America or whatever, UK, once they got what they wanted out of them, all of a sudden they got the title of warlords. Why? You love them, you respect them. Oh my God, they're the best. And then once you've got what you needed to get out of them, and then they don't accept or agree to your terms, then all of a sudden either you assassinate them, or they become warlords, or they become the monsters. Why is it like that? Going back to talking about Taliban, didn't America go for 20 years to obviously get rid of Taliban? 20 years is a long time. Why didn't they do it? They were doing all sorts of bombings and testing all their weaponry and whatever it was. Why couldn't they, locate where the so-called Taliban were, and why didn't they, go in and sort of, as they wanted to say, eradicate Taliban? Why didn't they? Why couldn't they? Why? It's a question. 20 years. But yeah, you get the intelligence. Oh, that there's going to be seven suicide attacks in Kabul airport. But you don't get the intelligence of the location of the Taliban with all that technology that you have. It's something that you need to kind of scratch your head and say, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And that's what people need to do. They need to open their eyes, their ears, and kind of understand what really is going on.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very strange. So, what do you think is the future now? What is going to happen? Because one another thing which surprises everybody is that there were 300,000, some 300,000 army, and the president and everybody just ran away without even firing one bullet. Now This sounds also more like an American propaganda, but I don't know if it's true or not. What happened? Was there a deal between America and Taliban, or there was a deal between China and Taliban? What was happening?
That I don't know who had the deal with who now, but when you have somebody like Khalilzad, example, Afghan, but raised by US, and anything is possible. So whether Ghani ran or not, I don't know. Is it got any kind of truth to it? I don't know. Why was he, forced to an exile? Kind of makes sense to me, because back in about 100 years ago, similar thing happened with King Aman Khan, for instance, forced into exile. But what I do know, what the information I do have, is that I am told that the head of security had basically weeks before started telling all these, national security and what have you, not to fire. That I do know. And I also know one more thing, which I have a voice note of somebody who is what do you call it? Eyewitness. He obviously was caught up in that the suicide attack in the airport, and then he got injured, and a woman died in his arms, and what have you. When he was eventually got taken into the airport and onto the plane, there were obviously some Afghan national army, and he had asked, it's like, what's going on? Why didn't anybody fight? He goes, it wasn't in our control. We were told to basically put our arms down. If we didn't, we were asked that either you put your arms down or lose your life. So why was that? Why did that actually happen in that way? I mean, with all that 20 years, they came, gave us the best weapons example, or the best whatever it may be, and not even one tank. They knew the Taliban were in Kabul, in the outskirts of Kabul. Why didn't the army and the police started forming in order to kind of protect the city? Why? It's a big question again. So again, it goes back down to follow the money. Now, the other thing was that 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 the Taliban predominantly, or should I say Pakistani? So I don't know. I mean, I can't label at this time of moment because nothing is very clear. So they were controlling all the trade routes from drugs, especially. So now when they were controlling everything, so then the fight goes. I mean, if you really think about it, per day, the trade of alcohol plus drugs is 35 to 36 million per day. That's a hell of a lot of money. So they had the control. And then that was happening between Pakistan and Afghanistan, Pakistan and Iran, Afghanistan and Iran. And when the ones that was going to Iran was coming directly into to the UK. Has anybody followed all of that? Has anybody understood all of that? So when you see all this money in Afghanistan, and then you think, okay, it's heart of Asia, one of the nicknames of Afghanistan. So you take Afghanistan, you'll be king of the world pretty much. And it goes on and deeper and deeper and deeper. So anyhow, when this person was told that we were asked to put the guns down, that started kind of ticking into my head. Well, hang on a minute. Okay, what could be behind this? And then I have some videos that's been sent to me that, this one, especially one guy, I mean, that went viral anyway after when I received it, that he's saying, I'm not going to put my gun down. Shoot me if you want, but I'm not putting my gun down. So you can see that you've trained them for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, nobody's standing to fight, and especially Afghans. Oh my God. Afghans fought with friggin' stones and sticks. And you're telling me they have all this arm, and they've said, oh no, okay, fine, we're not going to, fight.
Yeah.
No. We Afghans are not like that.
Yeah, right. And even Americans, I mean, till 30th, Americans were there. 31st, I don't know what was the date. Yeah. They were there, but then these videos going viral, people sitting on the wings of the aircraft falling from the sky. Oh my God, I shiver to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, but all this sounded and looked very info war kind of tactics to me, because US was there. Why didn't they stop? They had all the tanks, planes, arms, and they had huge troops. They didn't stop anything. They let it happen, and they are running from there as if they don't have any arms. I mean, America is a weak country. They flew like as if this is the end of the world. Now, this is very strange, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, because I was very anti-Taliban, and I don't agree with killings of people. I
Correct.
say, but I'm also a great advocate of local culture. Actually, if you ask me what I fight for local culture. I think East has great culture, and East must protect its culture from these invaders, the capitalist invaders like US and other countries. That's what
Yes.
I believe. But then this imagery also shocked us. It see, the problem is these days you don't know what's right and what is wrong. Why
Mm.
didn't America stop these people with all their arms, ammunition, drones, and spywares and all the intelligence? They didn't do anything. Wha- wha- did they want to give wrong picture about Afghanistan to the world, or they had a deal which I don't know. I'm really lost here.
We Afghans don't even know what happened there. I mean, it's very simple. Look 20 years behind, right? The attacks happened. How long did it take the Americans to kind of take over control of Afghanistan? 2 weeks. Within
Yeah,
2 weeks, they came, did whatever bombing or whatever they did, killed civilians, killed Taliban or whatever. It took them 2 weeks to kind of, take over. And are you telling me that you couldn't do the same thing this time round? Hmm.
yeah,
Doesn't make sense. It really
doesn't.
doesn't make sense. And people, the other thing is, people tend to forget things, you know, and especially in today's society, human beings, we have very short, sort of term memory, As soon as we're given something else, we run after that. As soon as we're giving something else, we run out of that. Anyway, so just to make a light joke of this, okay. So as soon as the news of Afghanistan hit the new, in this mainstream media, what happened to COVID? It vanished. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Hang on a minute. COVID has gone on holiday. Let's just cover Afghanistan for a little while. Then we're going to come back to this. So
yeah,
that's why I just can't judge whether it's my enemy or whether it's my friend. I can't judge. I cannot, because it's something I haven't seen with my own eyes. It's something I haven't heard with my own ears. So I can't go by hearsay of XYZ. So that's why I do my research. That's why sort of, once I see and I'm totally convinced that it makes sense in my own head, then I'm like, okay, fine. Okay, that makes sense to me now. Then I can speak about certain things. Now, am I for Taliban or am I against Taliban? I don't. I can't answer that. But am I there for peace for Afghanistan and Afghan people? 100%. Am I there to kind of say stop the killings of innocent people? Yes, I am. So about, I think, what, 10 days or so ago, America did a drone strike and all innocent people, 10 innocent people died. I don't know how long it was, it about a week. I don't watch the news, so I've lose track of time. Just recently, the drone attack, they killed 10 innocent people. Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, but supposedly one of them was Taliban or the enemy. Well, what? But you've got the right to just, bomb that. But what if we did that to you? How would you feel? These are the questions we all have to ask. And yes, we have to preserve our culture. Yes, we have to. I mean, especially Afghanistan, India, this part of the world, like you said, the East, we have a lot to protect, and it's a time.
sorry, yeah,
It's okay.
sorry. I lost the connection for was 30
No,
seconds.
so I was basically saying that we must protect our culture. We must protect um, our way of life. It's very, very important. Example I give you, in the Western world, when your parents become a certain age and you're so busy with your work life, you grab them and put them in an elderly home care or whatever it is. But we can't do that because we know that our parents, went through thick and thin to raise us. But then again, you're bringing that culture into that and say, oh, you know what, your parents are no more. Oh, it's you guys are too emotional, too attached, detached from this, detached. Why should we? We are human beings. We need to be connected, and if we are not connected, we will never be able to survive on this planet. And it's heart to heart connection, it's soul to soul connection. But they're coming and saying, nope, divide and rule, divide and conquer, whatever it may be. And that's where I just kind of, I was never able to settle in England very well, because these things, when I see, mother don't see the child for days on end and vice versa. And, poor woman, or, mother or father, whatever, they're old age, they're sitting all alone. But when you were as a baby, no matter what time of the night it was, your mother, your father got up. If your father didn't go to work and fed you, and if your mother didn't get up, odd hours to look after you, who would have? And now that you're grown ass, excuse my language, adult, oh yeah, I don't need her, oh, I don't need him, oh, it's just like, throw them away. And this is what the West, I'm sorry to say, I've learned, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and it's my personal experience, is kind of doing to the human beings. And I don't even agree with that, to be very honest. So
Yeah,
no,
yeah. No, no, I totally understand because in India, most of the women are homemakers.
yes,
Okay, like they call them, Americans call them housewives. I mean, they are housewives. Now, they say that they are not empowered. They are not empowered. Why? Because they don't go out and work.
yeah,
But I asked them a simple question. A woman raising children, giving them values, and sacrificing for them, she
yes,
would eat the whatever is left over,
yes,
and she would sacrifice sleeping in the rough mattress, but
yes,
she would give great values to the child,
yes,
and keep the family together. And she's the one who creates all the bonds in the society,
correct,
relationships, bondings, everything. She keeps the family intact, and in the society the image of the family. I think
yes,
that kind of sacrifice, that kind of struggle is possible only when you are empowered.
correct,
Otherwise it's not possible. When you are not empowered, it's very easy to get into relationships and get out of it. Just
mhm,
like you do pub hopping, you can do that relationship hopping. Now, this is something beyond their comprehension, they can't understand. They
yes,
want women to work because they need more corporate slaves, they need more bonded laborers, and they want more productivity and want to produce more and more. So they want women to go out.
yes,
Now, in society, this creates kind of a rift because human mind is not so strong that it can resist materialism so much. When people get comfort, people are greedy by nature, they want it. So,
mhm,
on one hand, there is glamour of America's materialism. On the other hand, there is very strong cultural bonding, social bonding in the Eastern society. I think these conflicting cultures, different kind of philosophies, materialism versus collective living, that is creating a lot of confusion in the world. And
mhm,
therefore, I think this globalization is kind of a, please excuse me, my language is pure bullshit. You know, I don't agree with globalization. Yes, you do global business, I understand, but globalization means one language, one culture, one liberalism, American style. What is liberalism? I don't understand. Okay, if they're so liberal, what is happening in US right now? Why people are killing each other? Nobody is happy with each other. Nobody trusts. If you are such a democratic, free, liberal society, people should move freely. In India, women move in Mumbai, women move freely at 3 at night. In New York, they can't. So when you're not safe in your country, when people don't love each other, there are no families, your family system is shattered.
yes,
No, everybody is trying to fleece the other person. then
Yes.
this liberalism, progressiveness, secularism, and all these things sound very fake to me.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that East doesn't need to correct itself. I think we also somewhere need to understand. I think I'll just say what I feel, then I want you to tell me. I feel what Afghanistan needs to do right now, they also need to fill this digital universe which America dominates with the correct information, with the right information. And instead of writing in Arabic or whatever, they should hire people write it in American language, in English language, with their cool words and everything.
Hmm.
I think they should take over Instagram and they should also bring the truth to the public. Otherwise, in this fast moving world, which is dominated by Twitters and Facebooks, the so called woke corporations of America, the big tech, they are out to destroy the credibility of most of the Eastern countries.
Correct.
And when I say Eastern, I include India and Afghanistan and all of us. I
Yes.
think we are a very old civilizations and we are great people. Wherever we are in life doesn't mean somebody can be at step number 10 of a ladder, the other can be at number 1. Doesn't mean this person is inferior, because after some time this person is going to move up. This is what I think Afghani people like you should do, bring the truth out. What do you think?
No, 100%. I agree with you. Being a woman, there was a time when I was like, oh, women empowerment, and then I sat one day and I said, hang on a minute, what does this women empowerment mean? Obviously, the way the Western world is showing us, America or UK, whatever it is, I realized, hang on a minute, I am already empowered. I am superior. I mean, nature has chosen me as a woman to give birth to another human. So, who on earth am I as a human being to say to myself, you know what, I'm not empowered? And yes, I 100% agree with you that women should. I'm okay. If they want to go out to work, work. But at the end of the day, when you have your kids, they always need a mother. Look at the animal world, the animal kingdom is the same thing, and we're part of that. So why should we all of a sudden, just because we are able to speak and have a bit of a brain, we have to just basically say, oh no, we got to go the other way? And it's always been, this is human nature, male being the breadwinners, the hunters or whatever you call them, the women has always been the gatherers. And when you don't have that woman, being able to, sort of educate the children, you don't really have a good future later on. Like, especially in today's society, these phones, every child, baby, has an iPad. I mean, like, what on earth is going on? Please just stop that. Well, it's a request from everybody out there. Please, especially your children, your babies, you need to teach them culture. You need to teach them lots of other things other than the damn, iPads and phones or whatever. Anyway, so in Afghanistan, yes, I totally agree with you that they should find a solution where, you know, um, things are written in different languages, and so people can understand whether as a child, where as an adult, Pashto speaker, Farsi speaker, whatever it may be, they should understand the language. And by the way, the Taliban called out on Facebook, talking about the censorship and what have you. So in some ways, when I see that, I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Is it the big boys fighting these people, and they are fighting the big boys to kind of stop this censorship and let human beings live as they freely as they should? So again, questions rises. So where the actual truth lies, I can't. I'm still learning myself, and I'm on that journey. But everything you said, I 100% agree with you. Totally. You know that I have a child. You've met him, when he was little, and
Yeah, he
I
was
keep
a wonderful boy. What is he doing now?
he's following his mother's footsteps into, well, now he's into photography and fashion and what have you, but he wants to make films as well, but on film. Uh, so for me, it was whether my acting career, which was, I loved the most, and that was one thing that I always dreamt of since I was a child. Or is it that I have to give all my time to my child? And when I did come to India, I did sign contracts. Probably you probably would know after the Northern Goal. But then I was told at that time, women with children are not accepted, and you know,
True.
and I have to kind of keep my child a secret. That's where it hit me. It's like, what kind of a mother am I to keep my child as a secret? And I just basically said, okay, fine, either accept me as I am, as the mother I am, or I'm not interested. So I had to make that decision and walk away from everything. But then in today's society, it's accepted, you know. Back 20 years ago, example, or 15 years ago, it wasn't accepted. Not even 5 years ago, all of a sudden, this Bollywood industry or sort of have kind of moved away from that. Okay, now women with children are accepted only if they're already famous. But if it's an outsider coming in and as a mother, she will never get the part.
But you're
So,
doing a great job. Making documentaries is a wonderful thing to do,
oh yeah,
because documentaries are
very
modern literature. They're like modern novels, books,
nice.
history books. And today's generation learns more from documentaries than reading actual books, you know. You see
Yeah,
one long documentary and you know. So it's been 1 hour we have been talking and I
do
didn't
we have
realize that. Yeah.
one last thing I wanted to tell you, what
Yeah.
inspired me to get into films. You see, as a child, I've always watched Bollywood movies. And if you see the transition, it's been absolutely beautiful. Via their movies, they educated millions of Indians in India and outside of India. Example, my greatest, one of my favorite films are example, Padman or Toilet. Those movies, or prior to that, in the, like sort of early, in the 80s, they used to slap the woman, for instance, and, kind of, torture her, and rape scenes were going on and everything. And then all of a sudden they were like, hang on a minute, how are we going to educate the industry? So they moved from that through their films. They taught people, no, this is how you should really treat a woman. And you see how it has changed from where to where Bollywood, the Indian film industry has come. So, anyway, long story short, and I thought, what a best way to teach people. If something that I want to, a message that I want to convey, the best way is to do it through films or documentaries or whatever it may be. So that's how I decided to, sort of make a little difference by showing people what the reality is and speaking about it. And then maybe, if I change one person's mind, I think I have changed the humanity. So yeah. So I do
So
love
no,
Bollywood.
great job, Najia. Najia, great job. And I'm so happy that I spoke to you.
Me
I'd been
too.
wanting, since I got to know you were making documentaries on such sensitive issues, I'd been wanting to talk to you. So thanks for coming here. I wish you all the best. And I wish your movies go everywhere and people see them in different places. Because I believe art is the best healer. Art is the soul of a society. Art is the soul of a culture. And without art, nothing is possible. So you also pray to God and you also spread this message
Okay.
that in war, nobody is good or nobody is bad. Two people who are in a war, they are in a war. But then the other people who are not in the war, they preserve the great art or culture and promote more art, especially the Afghani girls, because they have tender emotions. Women are more sensitive to perception. So I pray that all of them create good art and take the legacy of Afghanistan forward. And may God help everybody and let there be peace in Afghanistan.
Inshallah. As they say, आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर.
आपके मुंह में शक्कर, सही बात
Thank
है.
you.
So,
Well,
चलो,
thank
great, great talking to you, Nadia.
Same.
We should chat, whenever you feel like we should do some podcasts.
Why not? Let's do that. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it and I
And whenever you
enjoyed
are in
it.
Mumbai, please give me a buzz. Are you
I
going to be, if you are in UK, I'll see you. I'm going to promote my film very soon.
When are you
Uh,
coming to UK?
I'll be there, I think, in first week of January.
Okay.
And before that, I'm promoting in US. Then I'll go to Dubai and all these places and come back.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you all the very best. And if I'm in the UK, great. If not, I have a plan to come to India. I'm thinking maybe I should do the score of my documentary in India again. So I don't know. Right
Sure.
now, just I have different plans. But yeah,
Let me know if I can be of any help. I'll be delighted.
we'll discuss it.
And give my love to your son. Say hello.
Thank
Okay.
you. My love to your
I'll be here.
family. Lots of love to everyone else. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.